On today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the awesome ideas that Steve Lukather hid all over the hit Toto track, Rosanna. Hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben, and I'm going to tell you guys what. I had a real hard time coming up with the title for this video. Initially I was thinking about doing something like Inside Rosanna. That seemed a little bit too provocative. Then I changed gears to Dissecting Rosanna, and that sounded a little too graphic. Here recently on YouTube, I found Steve's isolated guitar track from the song, and I gave it a listen, and I was really surprised to hear some of the things that were on there because I never noticed them in the mix. A lot of times they're little clean guitar things just on the top couple strings of the guitar. They're not especially huge and taking up a lot of space, but they're such cool ideas. I knew that we had to explore them in a video. Whenever you check some of these parts out, I think it's going to help you guys approach things in your own recording projects and help you understand why Steve is such a badass and is rightfully one of the most in-demand studio guitar players of all time. As always, today's video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Sign up today. Even for just $1 a month, you're going to get access to tons of goodies like downloadable tabs to go along with this video. So don't delay. Sign up today. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm going to be using my lovely Ernie Ball Music Man Luke III, and I've got that going into the Bad Cat Jet Black. Now let's check out some of those awesome ideas. So there's two things that I want to talk about concerning this octave figure that Steve plays during the verses. One has to do with the tone, one has to do with the performance. Now check it out here on the isolated track, and you're going to hear a whole lot of room mics in that tone. It's just got some space to it, you know? You really feel like you're right there in the room in the studio. They probably had some room mics in there with the guitar amp. These are mics that are set further back in the room just to capture some of that ambient noise. And it gives it almost like a slapbacky kind of sound. Now we can simulate that room mic sort of sound a couple of different ways. I'm recording today through the UA aux, which has a great room mic kind of simulation built into it. And I can crank up those room mics on here and get pretty close to that sound that we're after. Check this out. I can crank them up even louder to make it a little bit more obvious. Now you can also simulate this digitally if you're using like a Helix or an Axe-Fx or whatever, or even some plugins in your DAW like what I'm about to show you. Now I record everything in Logic, and Logic has a whole bunch of different great sounding reverbs on it. One of them is called Chromaverb, and there's a setting on there that I found that I really like. It's called Amp Room, and if I put it on that reverb sound and crank it up a little bit, you're gonna hear that same sort of room mic effect. Now technique-wise, there's another thing that becomes really obvious when you listen to that isolated guitar track, and that's how much muted noise there is inside of Steve's guitar playing. If you play it like this, you might think you're doing what Steve is doing on the album, but if you listen closely, you hear that that pick hand is always in motion, and there's all these muted notes in between the main accents that we're hearing. It sounds more like this. He's staying in motion, he's staying in the groove. And I know that whenever we talk about Steve Lukather, we want to imagine that he's, such a legendary player because he's got chops and great tone and awesome hair and stuff. But really one of the most important factors he's got going for himself is his groove. His groove is so excellent. And you can really hear it whenever you isolate that track. I really love those two chords that he punches in right there. So this is going to be like an F major with an added ninth kind of sound. And you hear he puts a little bit of vibrato on that with the bar. The other chord is an E minor 7. The next section is over F, and he plays a similar kind of groove. And then at the end, he plays these chords. He's got an E flat sus 2. Very Alex Lifeson sounding chord. Then this little staccato figure on the D note. After that, we get to the pre-chorus of the song, which has these awesome diads that he plays. And again, you're going to hear him use the bar a bunch as he goes through this. Let's check it out. Really light touch. Isn't that cool? So we got our like G minor diad here. Really cool how he plays those. And again, you'll hear the bar is always kind of in motion on those. Especially on the guitar, man, thirds, whether they be flat thirds or major thirds, aren't terribly in tune. But whenever you keep them in motion, doesn't really matter. They all sound good. I love hearing that high overdubbed screech. It sounds like they put 2 distorted guitars on there to get that sound at the end of the unison lick. Now the next part's the chorus of the song, and this is actually what inspired me to make the video, because these chord stabs that he's playing on the top string sound so cool and so iconically 80s, because Steve Lukather kind of crafted the guitar sound of the 80s in terms of popular music. Let's check these out. Got the big distorted sound in there too. This is really easy stuff. Initially he's just playing on the G and B strings down here in the first position. You'll hear some more muted stuff just keeping the groove going in there. Like that. This chord, I love so much, man. So we can see he's starting off with this little move right here. He's taking that little finger and sliding it up a half step. Sounds so cool. And then we have this move. Now this is over the chord changes that go E flat, B flat, and F. And he does a really cool thing here on the high E string. You'll notice that all 3 of these chord shapes have that F note uniting them. The E flat he plays as an E flat sus 2 with the F note up top here. Here's our B flat triad. And here's our F triad. So you got that same F note kind of singing through all 3 of those chords. Sounds really powerful and really brings those chords together. In the second pre-chorus of the song, with the G minor kind of diads, he changes the way he gets back to it the second time around. He plays like this. Just a cool little lick, just to change it up a little bit. Awesome ideas. So the next noteworthy thing we're going to check out here is the main guitar solo of the song. I did a full lesson on how to play this a couple of years back based on the original recording. I think I got it accurate. I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it again, but you can find that here on my channel if you want to learn it like note for note. But the tone and everything here is so cool. Let's check out how this sounds on its own. Yeah, it's such an awesome solo. Now, I may be mistaken here, but I swear this sounds like it's double tracked, kind of Randy Rhoads style, where he'd record a solo, then record it again for like a fatter sound. It sounds like this is two really tightly performed takes of this on top of each other. And there might be a little bit of a chorusing effect going on here too. I'm going to switch over to channel 2 of the jet black here to the distorted tone. I'm going to show you guys how I would achieve a similar kind of chorus sound. So that's the amp on its own. If I want to give it a little bit more of that 80s bite, I'm going to engage this Boss SD1, one of my favorite pedals ever. Kind of a typically used pedal for this sort of scenario. Give a little bit more edge on there, you know. And I'm going to add in some chorus here using the UA aux. The aux is like one of the most important things that I have in my studio. This thing's amazing. And it has built-in like reverbs and delays and all kinds of cool stuff in there. And if you go into the delays, there's a whole section of different modulation effects, like the one I'm going to show you here. It's kind of interesting. You think of delay as being like repeats, but you can also chain delays to be really super close on the original signal and modulated, and it just kind of gives you a cool chorusing sound that doesn't like make your tone sound as cold and knock off as much low end as what a typical chorus pedal might do. Check out how this sounds with and without it. Sounds a lot more like the tone on the record with that chorusing on there. Yeah, like I said, doing it on the delay makes it a little less in your face than a typical chorus pedal kind of sound. Some of you guys have watched some of my like Van Hagar era Van Halen videos I've done on here. I'm using the same kind of idea to get that sound on those videos as well, that kind of classic micro pitch sound. So I've got it back on my clean tone now because I want to show you one other little hidden thing that I heard at the end of the tune. Now during the outro, it starts off with that groove and the piano player plays some stuff. And behind that, there's this little rhythm guitar part that I never noticed Steve was doing, but it's really cool. Check this out. A lot of hand noise in there. It's this little G minor figure that he's playing with some cool rakes and muted string noise in there. So you got the flat third, which is your B flat, then you got your root and 2 different octaves. It's just such a cool way to play over that with a lot of personality. Again, it's not a huge in-your-face part, but this is why Steve is Steve, man. He's a team player. He's always thinking about the big picture. He's not thinking about like, what would make the guitar sound the biggest here? He's thinking about what would sound great in the mix, where we got this awesome bass player, incredible drummer, incredible keyboard player. Everybody else is doing something. How do I fit in? How do I add something to it that doesn't just overtake it all? Little ideas like that, they don't seem like much, but this is why Steve will always be a legend and one of the most on-call players of all time. I already know somebody out there is getting upset that we're not going to dig into the outro solo of the song, which is so badass, but I think that would make this video like 3 times as long because there's so much cool stuff that he's playing in there. Let me know in the comment section if you guys want a breakdown of everything that he plays at the end of the song. I would love to have an excuse to dig into those licks because they are awesome and so sassy, you know. You'll notice on the isolated track too, it goes beyond where the fade out on the record goes, so you can really hear Lukather just hogging and going for it. He does some crazy like tapped stuff. He's going nuts at the end of the tune, so be sure to listen to that and let me know if you guys want a full breakdown of those hot licks later. So there you go, guys, a deep dive into Rosanna by Toto. Steve Lukather is so awesome, man. He's one of those guys that just always makes the right choices, whether it be the guitar choice, the tone choice, the pickup selector choice, definitely the hairstyling choices. He's got those down too. That's the reason why he's a legend, man. Also just a hilarious motherfucker too. Check out any interviews you can with that guy. I think there's one on the No Guitar Is Safe podcast that was really, really excellent. Yeah, I love his attitude and his vibe. Awesome, awesome player. Let me know if there's some other classic Lukather moments you guys would like to see broken down on my channel in the future. And be sure to sign up today over to that Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. It's where you're going to get the tabs and access to tons of bonus goodies. See you guys over there. Thanks as always for watching the video. Be sure to hit subscribe, like the video, ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold, and stay up to date with me here on my channel. Well guys, it's been fun as always, but now it's time for me to do some rope mashing of my own. So let's get away from the computer, grab our guitars, and get to work. Let's click it. More picking.